Swajanjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Narvasesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're reading Brhad Bhagavatamrta, and we're on the first part, and the first chapter of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta.
我们现在正在阅读的是《大伯加瓦坛甘露》这部书的第一部分的第一章。
Okay, so do you remember where did we finish?
Yes, it's 9. Today you should begin with text 19.
19. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
All right, so Jaimini is speaking, and he's telling about how Maharaj Parikshit was approached by his mother to speak what the essence of what Sukadeva Goswami had told him.
现在是 Jaimini 他在说话，他说Parikshit 大君呢，他的母亲就来到他自己的儿子跟前，恳求自己的儿子把 Sukadeva Goswami 向他讲述的这部书的核心告诉给他。
So Jaimini describes that Maharaj Parikshit felt affection, natural affection for his mother, and answered her very respectfully.
Parikshit 大君Parikshit Maharaj 对自己的母亲是满怀着爱意，所以彬彬有礼的、恭敬的回答了母亲的问题。
And he's very eager to recite. He's very eager to retell the wonderful things he had just heard from Sukadeva Goswami, all about Lord Krishna.
而且 Parikshit Maharaj 也非常渴望来背诵他刚刚从Sukadeva Goswami 那里所听到的这些事情。
So hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, it had given Maharaj Parikshit transcendental attraction for the spiritual sound vibration.
聆听了这部圣典博加瓦坛，使得 Parikshit Maharaj 他内心对这个超人的主题唤醒了他的吸引力。
So he was very willing to satisfy his mother's request that he describe the essence of what he heard.
所以他非常的愿意来满足他母亲的恳求，请求他来叙述他听到的内容。
So according to his, because of his enthusiasm to keep hearing and chanting the Bhagavatam, and then along with the affection for his mother, it made him more eager to speak.
因为他特别热情，满腔热情的 持续不断的在聆听和唱诵着圣典博伽瓦坛，再加之他对自己的母亲的深爱，所以他现在非常的愿意来讲述。
So he's ready to give the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
所以他就现在做好了准备，来把圣典博伽瓦坛的核心和精华来陈述。
So Maharaj Parikshit is also known as Vishnu Rata, meaning one who was protected by Lord Vishnu. So he says to his mother, he said, at a time like this, we should observe silence.
Parikshit Maharaj 他有一个名字叫 Vishnu Rata， 这个 Vishnu Rata 的意思是他得到了主 Krishna 的保护，所以他现在就开始说到了，说母亲啊，在这个时刻，人本来应当保持沉默。
But because your question is so delightful, it forces me, I'm impelled, I have to speak.
但是因为您的问题呢是这么令人喜悦，所以迫使我不得不开口讲话。
So I will speak by the mercy of my spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami.
所以我现在就要急着我的灵性导师 Sukadeva Goswami 的仁慈来开口讲话了。
So first let me offer respects to our Lord and Master, that is, of course, Lord Krishna.
首先让我向我们的主和主人，也就是主 Krishna 这一前进的顶礼。
And by his mercy only, he has given you life, and he has given me also life.
急着他的大慈大悲，他给了我新生，同时也给了你生命。
So his compassionate mercy is the cause of all of his pure devotees to give that nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam.
因为主的这种怜悯、悲悯的本性，所以使他的纯粹的奉献者来讲述了这个部圣典博伽瓦坛。
Yeah, the best of the devotees, the greatest of the sages, they've approved this Srimad Bhagavatam because it's full of confidential truth.
最优秀的奉献者，就是奉献者和最伟大的圣人们，他们都赞许了这部书籍，这部圣典博伽瓦坛，它充满了机密的真理。
So please listen very carefully as I faithfully repeat it to you.
现在，请您专注的聆听，我将一五一十的把它重复给您。
So we should understand that the Vedas, in the Vedas we have the Shruti, and the Shruti that's directly the four Vedas, and then there's the supplements to the Vedas, which are the Smriti. So this is the different parts of the literature, Vedic literature.
维达经呢，它分为不同的部分，一部分呢是直接的是四部韦达经，被称之为书体，还加上这个韦达经的补充文献，也就称为 Smriti。
So for the most part, these books they give more about how human beings can get more material progress.
那么这些书籍大部分内容呢，是指导人类怎样来取得物质上的进步。
And they rarely speak philosophically about the purpose of life.
他们很少提到，就是从哲学的角度提到人生的目的。
The science of devotional service excuse me. The science of devotional service is confidential, and it's taught only in a few Vedic scriptures, which are not very well known to the ordinary people.
有关于奉献服务这门科学呢， 只是在很少的几部伟大文献当中有所解释和提及，而且普通大众是很少对这些都是并不所知道的。
So among these kind of texts, there's books like the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, the Narada Pancharatna, Garga Samhita, Vishnu Purana, Harivamsa, these books.
而在这些这些罕见的提到奉献服务的这些经典呢，有 Gopal Tapani Upanishad 和 Narada Pancharatna、Garga Samhita、Vishnu Purana、Harivamsa 这样的书籍。
And then there's also the Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavat, the Mahapurana.
最后呢，还有 Bhagavat、Mahapurana， 也就是圣典博伽瓦坛了。
So Parikshit Maharaj is going to tell his mother what is the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
接下来 Parikshit Maharaj 就要对他的母亲讲述圣典博伽瓦坛这部书的内容。
And that Srimad Bhagavatam, that is actually the cream of the Vedic scriptures because it teaches about pure devotional service.
圣典博伽瓦坛被称之为伟大文献的奶油，因为它教导了纯粹的奉爱。
So these scriptures are very rich in spiritual knowledge.
这些经典，在灵性的知识方面是非常富有灵性的知识。
And they have the potency which will awaken in us renunciation and devotion.
他们也有能力唤醒人们内心的知识和气绝奉爱。
And the essence of these scriptures, it is nectar. It is like it's like a drink from the heavenly planets that gives immortality.
那么他们的这经典的核心呢，精华就好像是Amrita， 就是好像是来自天堂的一种天堂的饮品，它能使人不朽。
Just like when the demigods and the demons churned the milk ocean, all kinds of very valuable treasures came.
正如半神人和恶魔们共同搅拌牛奶之羊的时候，产出了各式各样的价值连城的宝物。
So Maharaj Parikshit had spent 7 days, the 7 days which he had left to live, he'd spent it preparing for death by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami.
Maharaj Parikshit 花了7天的时间，就在他离开这个躯体之前，来连续不断的从 Sukadeva Goswami 那里聆听了圣典博伽瓦坛。
But we should understand the Srimad Bhagavatam the Srimad Bhagavatam teaches about devotion.
圣典博伽瓦坛教导了人们有关于奉爱。
And the conclusion of the scriptures is it comes during the discussion between the Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit.
这部经典的结论是在Parikshit Maharaj 和 Sukadeva Goswami 讨论的过程当中所得出来的。
So Uttara, who is the mother of Maharaj Parikshit, she wants to hear the essence of this scripture.
Maharaj Parikshit 的母亲就是 Uttara， 她想要聆听这部圣典的精华。
So the Srimad Bhagavatam is very beautiful, both in the original text and in the explanation. Nothing in Srimad Bhagavatam is superfluous or unnecessary.
这部由Shukadeva Goswami 讲述的圣典博伽瓦坛是非常美丽的。然后这个博伽瓦坛的内容没有哪个内容是多余的，不必要的。
Right. And we can quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the third verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature.
接下来的这个诗节是引述的圣典博伽瓦坛的第1章的诗节3，他说，圣典博伽瓦坛是维达文献的如愿树上的成熟果实。
So this fruit has become more enjoyable because this fruit has become even more enjoyable, even though it was already tasted by the liberated souls.
而这个成熟果实变得更加美味，即便它已经被解脱的灵魂所品尝过了。
So Sukadeva Goswami, he testifies to this fact from his own experience.
苏特勾斯瓦米就从自己的经验当中就证实了这条真理。
But other devotees, they may feel inclined, they may feel better to listen to some parts of the Bhagavatam more than others.
但是，有一些奉献者，会宁愿聆听圣典博伽瓦坛的某一部分，更甚于去聆听其他的部分。
But there may be special devotees who have developed a taste for that nectar, and they don't feel attraction for hearing anything other than Srimad Bhagavatam, whether it's the beginning or the end.
Sorry, I didn't catch the meaning of this.
Okay, there are some devotees, Vaishnavas, who are very special, and they have a unique taste, and they want to relish the Srimad Bhagavatam.
有一些特殊的 Vaishnava， 他们对于圣典博伽瓦坛发展出了独一无二的品味。
They don't have a taste for hearing anything else but the Srimad Bhagavatam.
除了圣典博伽瓦坛之外，他们就没有兴趣来聆听其他的圣典，没有兴趣聆听其他的书籍。
And even beginners in the process of devotional service, they no longer want to hear about Jnana Yoga and the path of impersonalism.
甚至是出席者，他们也对于就是 Jnana Yoga 思辨瑜伽以及非人格主义的解脱也不感兴趣了。
And some people who are trying for liberation, just like some Jnana yogis, they're trying for liberation. So when they're trying for liberation, they have no more interest in material development or in enjoying material life.
就正如那些Jnana 修习思辨瑜伽的那些寻求解脱的人们，他们已经对于物质的生活不再感兴趣。
So every discussion in Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies Lord Krishna.
圣典博伽瓦坛当中的每一项讨论的内容都是在荣耀 Krishna。
But some devotees think that some parts of the Bhagavatam, they don't directly describe the intimate glories of Krishna, and they think that's not so important.
有一些奉献者，他们 圣典博伽瓦坛有的部分并没有描述主 Krishna 的非常亲密的荣耀。
So those devotees who are self-realized, we have to allow their preference. We allow them, okay, you don't like to hear this part, okay, don't hear.
那些已经获得了自我觉悟了的奉献者们，他们有独一无二的品味，所以我们必须允许他们有这种兴趣和爱好。那你不想听就不要听好了。
But we are just neophyte devotees, and we should not imitate them.
但是因为我们都是初习的奉献者，我们就不能来模仿这样的奉献者。
We need to hear all of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
我们需要聆听整部圣典博伽瓦坛。
We shouldn't imitate self-realized devotees.
我们不应当模仿那些自我觉悟了的奉献者。
So because we still have some faults, we have to strictly follow the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam.
因为我们身上都有一些缺陷，所以我们要严格的遵守圣典博伽瓦坛的教导。
And we have to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam from the beginning to the end.
我们必须从始至终的来以这种顺序聆听圣典博伽瓦坛。
And if we hear it very systematically from the beginning, along with all the explanations, the commentaries, then the devotees will gradually become qualified to taste the nectar hidden in the Bhagavatam.
倘若我们也以这种系统的方式，从始至终的来研习圣典博伽瓦坛，并且加上他对圣典博伽瓦坛的解释，然后这样的话，我们就有资格来品味到在圣典博伽瓦坛当中隐藏着的甘露。
So great devotees like Sukadeva Goswami and Narada Muni and other Vaishnavas, up to their standard, they all give a part, they all help in this message of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta.
像舒格德维戈斯瓦米、纳尔的和其他的 Vaishnava， 他们都在这部大博伽瓦坛甘露这本书的成书的过程当中，做出了自己的贡献。
And it's also approved by great sages like Parashara Muni and Vyasadeva.
也得到了像 Parashara Muni 和 Vyasadeva 的赞许。
So the Srimad Bhagavatam presents the message of the absolute truth very clearly.
所以圣典博伽瓦坛非常清晰地呈现了绝对的真理。
Other books maybe have many mantras and teach about yoga, but their message of the absolute truth is always very vague.
其他的书籍也许教导了人们念诵各种 mantra 和瑜伽，但是他们在呈现绝对真理的方面是非常含糊不清的。
And it may even, sometimes the books are not honest because they're not authorized teachings.
并且这样的书籍呢，他们是不诚实的，因为他们的教导并没有权威性。
So the Srimad Bhagavatam presents the absolute truth in a very thorough manner.
因此，整部圣典博伽瓦坛是一种透彻的、全面的方式呈现了绝对的真理。
There are others, unqualified writers, unqualified authors, and they're not able to reveal it in a proper manner.
而其他的那些没有资格的作者们，他们的呈现是不真实的一种方式，不诚实的方式。
They don't have much to say, and what they do say does not have much value.
他们其实是无话可说的，而即便他们说了一些话的，那么这些话也是没有什么价值可言。
and their writing, their presentation is done in a manner that they're afraid of losing the attention of their readers.
而他们写作的方式呢，只是为了讨好、取悦他们的读者罢了。他们害怕失去他们的读者。
But this essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the ultimate summary of Vedic knowledge.
而这部圣典博伽瓦坛的精华是伟达知识的一个概要。
All right, so we'll go ahead now. Jaimini is describing, once there was a group of great sages who were at Prayag, which is the best of pilgrimage sites, during the month of Magh.
好，接下来就是在 mini 的继续来讲述到，有一次，有一群崇高的圣者们，他们在 Magh 月聚集在最佳的圣地 Prayag。
Yeah, Prayag means the place where the Ganges meets the Yamuna. It's a very holy place.
Prayag 是恒河和雅穆纳河的交汇处，是一处神圣的地方。
And the month of Magh means January, February, mid-January to mid-February.
Magh 月是指的1月中旬到2月中旬这段时期。
So it's usually at that time when they have the Kumbh Mela, which is once every 12 years, and it brings millions of people to come to that place to take bath.
而这个时期呢，正是昆本梅勒大壶节举行的日期。昆本梅勒是每12年举行一次。那时候成千上百万、数以百万计的人们会聚集在此处。
So the sages had taken their bath in the Ganga and Yamuna, and they were happily seated in front of the deity of Madhava.
圣者们便在河中沐浴，之后他们在Sri Madhava 的神像面前，心情愉悦地坐了下来。
And they were all feeling very satisfied. They felt as if all their goals in life had been satisfied.
他们此时此刻的感受，就好像他们生命的目标都已得到了实现和满足。
And they were praising each other, and they were saying to each other, "You got the mercy of Lord Krishna. You've received Krishna's mercy."
他们纷纷的赞扬彼此说道：“您得到了主 Krishna 的仁慈。”
So these devotees, these sages at Prayag, they were humble devotees, and they didn't like to be praised themselves. They praised others.
这些聚集在 Prayag 的圣者们，他们都是谦卑的奉献者们。他们不喜欢听到自己受到赞扬，反之，他们希望来赞扬别人。
So they could appreciate each other's good qualities, and they could honestly say to the other person, "You are the best devotee. You're the dearest devotee of the Lord."
他们就能够欣赏彼此的优秀品质，并且诚恳地告诉对方说：“您是主最亲爱的奉献者。”
And he says, when Vaishnavas, we should understand, when the Vaishnavas are friendly to one another like this, then their community prospers.
我们应当理解，当 Vaishnava 们就像这样彼此有爱的时候，他们的社团就会欣欣向荣、繁荣发展。
This is a very important point to be understood.
这一点是非常重要的，我们应当理解这一点。
Appreciating each other, and that creates such a nice atmosphere and attracts many people.
彼此欣赏，这就能够吸引很多的人们，使人们加入到我们当中。
So Prayag it's the chief of holy places because it's right at the point where the Ganges and the Yamuna meet.
Prayag 是圣地之王，因为它是恒河与雅穆纳河交汇之处。
And it's the most auspicious time is that month of Magh, which is January, February. That's the most auspicious time to go and bathe there.
而且在1月和2月期间的这个 Magh 月，这时候在这河中沐浴是最吉祥的沐浴的时分。
And there's a verse which is given by an incarnation of the Lord known as Dattatreya. And he explains that Lord Madhava is not as pleased by vows or charity or austere penances as by one's simply taking a bath in the month of Magh.
这首诗节是由人格守神的一个化身叫 Dattatreya 所讲述的。这个诗节的意思是至尊主 Madhava。
Yeah, go ahead.
至尊主 Madhava 取悦至尊主 Madhava 的方法，并不是通过誓言、布施、苦行来取悦至尊主，并不如像人在 Magh 月当中沐浴那样能够取悦主 Madhava。
So Madhava, Lord Sri Madhava, is the deity, the presiding deity at this holy place, at Prayag Tirtha.
主 Madhava 是在这个圣地 Prayag 这处圣地的它的主要的神像。
So after they'd taken their bath, of course very cold at that time, they'd taken their bath, they'd gone there into the water and taken their bath, and then they'd come out and went to the deity, then they were sitting in front of Madhava, and they were feeling very fortunate to be together in such a holy place at such an auspicious time.
当然，在那个时候，在河中沐浴是非常寒冷刺骨的。但是在河中沐浴之后，圣者们就从河中出来，然后坐在了主 Madhava 的面前。他们感到非常的幸运，能够彼此以这种方式共同在这个月份，并且在这样的圣地能够坐在一处。
So this deity of Madhava, this is the same deity we went to see when we were there at this holy place at Prayagraj. When we were at the Prayagraj, we went to see also the deity of Madhava. We saw that deity. It's still there today, being worshipped.
那么他们所坐在的这尊神像 Sri Madhava， 也就至今仍然在那个Prayag 这个地方，也就是What's the name of the deity?
Madhava.
Madhava 啊，这个神像至今仍然在这个圣地。
All right, so now we're going to hear the story which takes place there, what happened there. So it describes Maharaj Parikshit speaking to his mother, and he tells her, at that time, a first-class Brahmana arrived at that holy site. That holy site is Dash Ashwamedha Tirtha.
接下来我们来聆听下面一步发生的事情。Maharaj Parikshit 对他的母亲说道：“亲爱的母亲啊，就在那个时分，一位一流的 Brahmana 就来到了这个圣地。这个圣地名字就叫 Dasha Ashwamedha Tirtha。”
Right. Dasha Ashwamedha is a place where 10 Ashwamedha sacrifices were performed.
这当时阿瓦塔尔梅的意思就是在这个地方举行了10次阿什瓦梅的祭祀。
So that was the place where Lord Chaitanya instructed Sanatana Goswami. Oh no, Rupa Goswami was instructed at Dasha Ashwamedha Ghat. It was Rupa Goswami took instruction at Prayag from Lord Chaitanya for 10 days.
Rupa Goswami 在达沙瓦塔尔梅的提尔塔这个地方连续10天聆听了主柴丹尼亚对他的教诲。
Yeah, there's a temple there, just at the side of the Ganges, and Lord Chaitanya stayed there and taught Rupa Goswami for 10 days.
就在恒河岸边有一处庙宇，主柴丹尼亚连续10天在此处教导 Rupa Goswami。
So the Brahmana, we're told, this Brahmana came to this place. He was fully absorbed in devotional service to the Lord. He was a very, very first-class Brahmana.
来到此处的这位 Brahmana 是一个全神贯注于奉献服务的Brahmana， 他是非常有奉爱心。
He had all good qualities, and he was the leader of that region.
他拥有一切优秀品质，他是当地的社团的首领。
And he had many people who were with him, accompanying him, and he was getting ready to distribute food to all the local brahmanas.
他的身边环绕着许多的随从，所以这位 Brahmana 正准备向当地的婆罗门来派发食物。
He collected all kinds of different valuable items for worshipping the Lord.
他搜集了各式各样珍贵的物品，准备要崇拜主。
And this Brahmana is very generous. He's going to give all these things away in charity to the Brahmanas. But first of all, he has to do preliminary things, and he purified a large area on the ground.
这位 Brahmana 他是慷慨大度的，非常有善心的。他准备把这些物品都派发给当地人，但是首先他必须要做一些准备工作。他净化了一大片的区域。
And then he built a very quickly, he built a very nice altar, and he used mud with his own hands to cover with a canopy. He used mud with his own hands to build the altar, and then he covered the whole thing with a canopy.
他迅速的就用他的双手，用泥土造了一座神坛，之后呢，又用一个伞形的这个穹顶，把这个神坛上方给罩了起来。
So we don't know the name of that Brahmana, but we know that he was the leader of that region.
这位 Brahmana 的名字我们并不知道他的名字，我们只知道他是婆罗门当中的首领。
And he'd come to do public worship of Lord Krishna there.
他就来到了这个地方，在公共场所来开始崇拜主 Krishna。
And materially, he was very rich and influential. And if he wanted, he could lead a comfortable life.
他在物质方面，他非常富有，又有影响力。他本来是可以过一种舒适的生活。
But he was a very surrendered devotee, and everything he had, he used for the pleasure of Lord Krishna.
但他却是一位臣服了的奉献者，他拥有的一切，他只用来 来取悦主 Krishna。
And by his service, he was able to satisfy Krishna and everyone else.
他通过他的服务取悦了主，并且取悦了每一个人。
Okay, so then next thing he did was he placed Lord Krishna's form at the, as this, Lord Krishna, he brought Lord Krishna's form in the form of a shalagram shila, and he placed it on that throne. He'd made this golden throne, and he put the shalagram shila on the altar with great devotion.
在下一步，他就以 Shalagram Shila 的形式，把主 Krishna 的形体呢，就放在了一座吉祥的金质宝座上，就开始怀着巨大的奉爱之情崇拜主。
And he worshipped the Lord with great devotion and did all the different rituals.
他怀着巨大的奉爱，非常喜悦地崇拜了主，用仪式来崇拜主。
Shalagram Shila is a very sacred stone which is only worshipped by the Brahmana Vaishnavas as a deity form of Lord Vishnu.
Shalagram Shila 是一个神圣的，是圣石，只有 Vaishnava Brahmana 才能够有资格崇拜它。他们把它当成主 Vishnu 的神像来崇拜。
And these stones, they only come from one place. They come from a place called the Gandaki River, which is way up in the Himalayas.
这些菊石出自喜马拉雅山路上游的一座河，叫做 Gandaki 河。
And there's a village just near the river. Its name is Shalagram. The name of the village is Shalagram.
在那地方有一个村庄，它名字就叫做 Shalagram。
And there's many different stones, they're different types, and they're all different incarnations of different forms of Lord Vishnu. And they all have special markings.
在那个河中呢，有许许多多各式各样的 Shalagram Shila， 他们都是主 Vishnu 的各式各样的化身，他们有各式各样的记号。
And expert brahmanas, they can recognize what Shila is, which incarnation it is.
一个精湛的，有熟练的、有知识的 Brahmana 可以认出到底他是神的哪个化身。
So then the Brahmana was in front of the altar and he placed food and clothes and he made offerings, other offerings.
这位 Brahmana 他就站在神像面前，把食物、布匹和其他的贡品摆放在神像面前。
And he made it like a festival. Although he was only one man, he would dance and sing and play music.
虽然他是独自一人在那里崇拜，但他却把这个仪式变成了一个节日，因为他开始载歌载舞，并且来弹奏起乐器。
So when you worship the deity, we should understand how to properly honor the Lord. Just like a guest will come to your home, so you have to greet them properly. First, you wash their feet with special fragrant water.
当崇拜神像的时候呢，人必须知道该怎么来，彬彬有礼的来招待他们，就好像家中有贵客来访，首先呢要给他献上涤足水、洗脚水，并且给他呈现呢就是带着香气的水来饮用。
And then there's so many other items of etiquette, things you're supposed to do when guests come.
以及当贵宾来访的时候，所要呈上的其他物品，这些都是对待宾客的礼仪。
Especially should feed the deity very nicely and offer gifts of cloth and different oils and incense and perfume.
特别是要给神像做好吃的，还有其他的，比如说香精油，香水儿。
And you offer, of course, we also offer lamps like key lamps in the Artik ceremony, and that represents the light that we would want to show at the entrance of our house for a guest coming.
并且在宾客来的时候呢，人应当拿着这个酥油灯来给他们供奉酥油灯，这个酥油灯代表的是光明。
Just like when a guest is coming, you want to put the light on, let them see where they're coming.
就好像在客人来到你家中的时候呢，你要把灯打开，让客人能看清这个家中的这个路途。
And then the Brahmana who's doing the worship, then he also made special offerings to the Brahmanas who were watching, who were present.
接着这位 Brahmana 呢，还给在旁边一边来观看这个仪式的其他的 Brahmana 呢，来给他们也做出了给他们也奉上了礼物。
And these Brahmanas, they were all expert in arguing and debating about the Vedas and the Puranas and different scriptures.
在场的这些 Brahmana 们、婆罗门，他们擅长讨论有关于韦达经啊、往事书啊和其他经典的内容。
And
争执不休。
then he offered respects to all the sannyasis and to the grihastas and the brahmacharis.
接着呢，他还向那些在场的 sannyasi、多僧、居士和真守生们也致敬。
And then he honored the Vaishnavas, who always liked to enjoy the glorifying Lord Krishna.
其次，他又荣耀了 Vaishnava 们，这些 Vaishnava 们都非常喜欢来荣耀主 Krishna。
So in this way, the Brahmana was encouraging all these respectable people by nice words and nice behavior.
就这样，他以这种方式鼓励了所有在场的人，他是用他的动听的话语以及他彬彬有礼的举止来鼓励了所有在场的人。
And he took the water which had washed the feet of all these people, and he placed it on his own head.
他还把洗涤这些在场这些人物的，就是涤足水，把这些涤足水放在了自己的头上。
And then he worshipped all of those people who were present watching. He worshipped them with the food and the other items which he'd offered to the Supreme Lord.
他用崇拜至尊主的食物以及其他的物品，也崇拜了其他在场的这些观众们。
So we should understand there's different types of devotees and brahmanas. One class of brahmana, they like to show their knowledge by arguing and defeating others.
我们要知道有各式各类的婆罗门，有一类 Brahmana 婆罗门，他们喜欢来展示自己的学识，通过在辩论当中驳倒对方，来炫耀自己的学识。
But there are other brahmanas who are like devotees, and they prefer just to use their energy to hear and chant about Krishna.
还有另外一类 Brahmana 们，他们是心地纯净的 Vaishnava， 他们喜欢用他们的精力来聆听唱诵 Krishna。
And some of the devotees, they're brahmanas by birth and by their behavior.
还有一些 Vaishnava 们，他们出生就是婆罗门 Brahmana， 而且他们的外在的行为举止也表明他们是 Brahmana。
But you can have pure devotees from any position. They may not have been born in a Brahmana family. They can come from any position in society.
但是，就是纯粹的 Vaishnava 不一定就一定要来自于 Brahmana 家庭，可以是任何的社会阶层的人都可以成为纯粹的 Vaishnava.
So these people, even though by birth they may not have a good birth, but if they've become devotees, then they're better situated spiritually than any of these Brahmanas by birth.
尽管这样的这些人，这些外士那瓦们，他们并不是出生就是 Brahmana， 但是由于他们的品行，他们却比任何这种出生就是 Brahmana 的人们都要优秀。
So pure devotees, they won't waste their time debating with people or arguing with people unless it can be for the advancement of Krishna consciousness.
纯粹的奉献者们不喜欢浪费时间来辩论和喋喋不休的争论，除非是为了在 Krishna 之间取得进步的缘故。
Or they may engage in arguing with others if there's some criticism of devotees or criticism of the Supreme Lord.
或者是在就是有对奉献者或至尊主，有人批评奉献者或至尊主的情况之下，他们才会与他们展开辩论。
Or another reason why they might have to argue with people is to protect them from misunderstandings.
还有另外一种情况下，他们会展开辩论，就是为了保护他们自己免于误解。
Anyway, the Brahmana who was doing this festival, who was doing all this worship, he honored all the Vaishnavas and all the Brahmanas with very kind and encouraging words and with respectable behavior, like bowing to them and washing their feet and offering them arti.
无论如何，这位 Brahmana Vaishnava，就在举行了这个像节日般的仪式，在这个节日般的仪式上，荣耀了在场的 Brahmana 和 Vaishnava 们。他以甜美的话语和令人鼓舞的话语，以及用他彬彬有礼的行为举止来荣耀了他们。比如说，他会向他们顶拜，来给他们洗脚，以及向他们供奉上 arti 做灯仪等等。
And then, with great respect, he fed everyone else, including even the very low position, low outcast people of very low birth. He would feed everyone.
接下来，他就尊敬地给所有的人献上食物，提供了食物，包括最堕落的那些四阶层之外的人们。
And he was careful to satisfy even the dogs and the jackals and the birds and the insects.
他甚至特别小心谨慎的，甚至来满足了那些狗、狐狼、鸟类和昆虫。
So, Sudras and lower than Sudras, they're usually considered to be fallen in the social position.
书者以及那些四阶层之外的人们，通常呢被认为是堕落的人们。
And people who are very poor and hungry, they're also considered to be fallen or wretched.
而那些贫穷的、一贫如洗的和饥肠辘辘的人，通常也被认为是非常可怜的、堕落的。
But we should understand the actual standard of a person being fallen or in a wretched condition is when he has a lack of devotion. to the Supreme Lord.
但是我们应当理解，真正的对一个人是否是堕落的来评判他的标准是看他是否是缺乏对至尊主的奉爱之情。
Lord Chaitanya taught us aman ena manadena kirtani yasadahari, that we should offer all respect to others and not to be anxious for any respect for ourselves.
主柴丹尼亚在八训规的第3条教导说，我们应当对其他人致以全部的敬意，而不渴望其他人尊重自己。
So if somebody worships the Lord by doing Sankirtan, by doing chanting of the holy name and Sankirtan, and at that time he should also not demand respect for himself, but he must give respect to others.
一个从事于唱诵 Sankirtan 的，或者是通过唱诵圣名来崇拜主的人，他也不应当来渴望其他人来尊重他自己，相反，他应该向其他的每一个生物致以敬意。
So if we do like that, then we will be able to worship the Supreme Lord continually.
如果我们能做到这一点的话，就能持续不断的来崇拜主了。
But at the same time, the respect, when we say offer respect to everyone, it should be appropriate to each person.
但是我们对每一个生物所呈现的敬意，应当是恰如其分的。
Just like if there's a hungry tiger, we won't embrace it like a brother.
比如说，有一个饥肠辘辘的老虎，我们就不应该像兄弟一样的上去迎接它、拥抱它。
So if a devotee is trying to become Krishna conscious, he should keep a distance from people who are not of good character and who have no faith.
一个渴望来获得纯粹的Krishna知觉的奉献者，应当和那些就是品行不好的人，或者是缺乏信念的人，应当跟这样的人保持距离。
So after the Brahmana had satisfied all the people present, then the holy men who were there, they told him that he should take the remnants of the sacrifice.
当这位 Brahmana 已经满足了每一个人之后，在场的圣人们就邀请他来荣耀这个祭鱼。
And they told him, and he did so, the Brahmana did that, along with his family and all of the followers. Then they enjoyed the prasadam, and they were very happy to enjoy the prasadam.
这位 Brahmana 连同他的家人和追随者们一起，就按照相应的命令来享受了祭鱼。
So only after everybody in the whole area had been fed and was satisfied, only then the host and his family and his servants, only then they took Lord Madhava's prasad.
就是在这个地区之内的每一个人都，每个人都吃过饭之后，心满意足的吃过之后，这位 Brahmana 和他的家人仆人们一起才坐下来荣耀主 Madhava 的 prasad 祭鱼。
Yeah, this prasadam is actually it's the nectar of eternal life.
这个 prasad 实际上是永恒生命之甘露。
It's very good to taste it, and because it was offered to Lord Krishna, there's no karma. It's completely pure. It's prasadam.
它不仅美味，而且因为供奉了主 Krishna， 所以它是纯洁的，摆脱了业报的，是祭鱼。
So then the Brahmana came before his Shalagram Shila, which is a deity of Lord Krishna, and he folded his hands and offered to the Lord all the pious credit he had earned by this sacrifice.
在这之后，这位 Brahmana 再次来到了他自己的主 Krishna 的 Shalagram 菊石神像面前，双手合十，把他做祭祀的所有的虔诚活动的结果、功德都献给了主。
Right. When we make the offering, just like this, a sacrifice, so they chant mantras, and the mantras will say that everything which was offered belongs to the deity.
在一场祭祀当中呢，人们祭司会唱诵 mantra， 这个 mantra 的意思是说，这个是给神像的。
Yeah, the mantra will say, "This is for Indra. It is not mine anymore. This is for Indra."
这个他们唱诵的 mantra 的意思就是说，这个是给 Indra 的，它已经不再是我的了。
But often we find that when people, they may be reciting that mantra, but actually they still have the desire to own that property, to own that thing which they're offering. Although they're saying this belongs to Indra, they're still thinking it's actually theirs.
但是有的时候会有这种现象，这个人口口声声的这个是给 Indra 的，但是他在内心仍然认为这还是他自己的。
So they not only offer, they still want to enjoy the fruit of the sacrifice.
他们还有就是想享受这个祭祀的结果的这种享乐者的心态。
So it means their devotion was not actually pure, because pure devotion is when we make the offering only for the pleasure of the Supreme, without any of our own attachment.
这就意味着他们的供奉并不是纯粹的，纯粹的奉献服务是指的只是为了至尊主的喜悦来做出的供奉，没有任何自私的动机。
So then the leader of the Brahmanas, he put his Shalagram Shila comfortably to rest, and he got ready to go home.
这之后，这位婆罗门的领袖就把他的这尊神像，让他的神像舒适的休息。之后，他准备就回到家中。
But Narada Muni had been watching, and he'd been watching from a distance, and he'd seen everything which happens. So at that time, Narada Muni stood up to speak to the Brahmana.
Narada Muni 一直在远处，就远远的观看。就在此时此刻， Narada Muni 就站起来开始讲话。
Okay, so it's a good place to stop.
好，那我们今天就讲到这里。
And we'll ask, is there any questions this week?
我们这一周有没有问题呢？
是的，有问题。稍等我查一下。Kita Kowenta Madati 有一个问题。顶拜咕噜，所有荣耀归于圣帕帕德。觉悟至尊梵有3个层面 ：Brahman、Paramatma 和 Bhagavan。请问 Brahman 放光和个体灵魂是一样的吗？至尊主是永恒的，那他发出来的放光也是永恒的。里面的个体灵魂会不会也有它永恒的地位，也是光的地位呢？
也是什么？
也是放光的地位。
放光的地位。
就是在这个放光当中的这个灵魂，是不是跟当光是同等的？
A basis to Guru and Srila Prabhupada. There are 3 levels to realize the Supreme Brahman. One is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The Supreme Lord is eternal, and the Brahman Jyoti is also eternal. And the question is that the individual soul, is it the same eternal position as the Brahman Jyoti, Brahman?
No.
不是的。
Because the eternal soul his eternal position is not in the Brahmajyoti, but his eternal position is with Krishna in the spiritual planets.
虽然灵魂是永恒的，但他的永恒的地位不在梵光之中，而是他的永恒地位应该是永恒的和至尊主 Krishna 在 Krishna 的永恒星球上。
So if you simply stay in the Brahmajyoti, then you won't stay very happily there. You won't be happy there forever.
如果个体灵魂仅仅停留在梵光之中呢，它不会永恒的，就是快快乐乐的停留在梵光之中。
After some time, you will want to leave there. And then people who often go to the Brahmajyoti, they come back to the material world.
过了一段时间之后呢，这个体灵魂就会离开梵光，就有这种先例，就去梵光，已经上升到周体梵光的个体灵魂，过一段时候又回到了物质世界了。
Yeah, our constitutional position is in relation to Krishna. If you're in the Brahmajyoti, there's no opportunity to do devotional service.
个体灵魂的永恒地位应当是和主 Krishna 在一起，在梵光之中呢是没有做奉爱服务的机会的。
There's no activities there.
在梵光之中是不存在活动。
There's only the feeling of oneness.
他们在梵光当中呢，就有那种合一的感受。
There's no relationships. There's no variety.
在这个梵光当中，个体灵魂它没有任何关系，也没有各种各样的多样性。
Okay? Yes?
好的，谢谢公主。
Any other question there?
只有这一个问题，只收到这一个问题。
Yeah, it's not much to ask questions on yet.
因为晚上的时候你也可以回答问题，所以白天我没有收到更多的问题。
Now, we're supposed to have a class. You want an association? Can it be any day? Sati? 我们可以跟你的方向是，我们可以集合，什么时间不方便？虽然不是周末，可以吗？
可以啊，看您的时间方便就可以。
OK， 等一会儿，这个时候比较忙。
是，我想这节日前肯定比较忙。 对，那等您时间方便的时候吧。
Okay, yeah.
好，谢谢。
So we'll finish here. 我们结束。
好的，我看。稍等，让大飞亚有个问题。
Oh, yeah.
点拜古尔的莲花族，您刚才讲到有的人即使把东西给天地因者，也还是认为东西是自己的。那么我们知道一切是 Krishna 的，那么是否也有这样的情况呢？
Yeah, yes, there is. 肯定有这样的情况。We know everything belongs to Krishna, but still we're thinking it's mine.
是的，我们明明知道一切属于 Krishna， 但是我们还是觉得它就是我的。
We're just saying everything is Krishna's, everything is Krishna's, but we think of it all for myself, for my sense gratification.
我们嘴皮子上说这都是 Krishna 的，都是 Krishna 的，但是我们心里想，这还是我的，这都是为了我的感官享乐。
So, yeah, we have to not just only verbally say everything is Krishna. We have to actually feel that it's Krishna. It's not mine, it's Krishna's. And that means to use everything for the service of Krishna.
不是用语言来说一说这是 Krishna 的，而是能够切切实实的、真实的感受到它不是我的，它是 Krishna 的。并且在实际生活当中就表现出来，就是把它用来服务 Krishna。
Yes.
Good， 那就是我想继续问一下，就是刚才约大飞马在就是这个问题，如果我们在做服务的时候非常计较，就是一提到我们要花钱或者是要用一些东西来服务的时候，第一个反应就是非常计较，不论是用车呀，或者是买花呀，什么都是第一个反应就是计较。这个是不是就是说我们还是把这个金钱或者把这个东西认为是自己的这种情况
？Good money.
For example, during the service, we're very miserly. We think that when there is need for spending money for the flowers, or sometimes there is need for devotees to drive cars, but they are very reluctant to spend money or to use their car. Is that they're still thinking that it is that they belong to them?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it can be. They may have other reasons, but it could be that.
也许是，有可能是出于别的原因，但是也许有这种原因。
Yeah, we're often in this condition, you know, we think this is mine, I'm the only one with a car, everybody wants to use my car.
这是我的车，干嘛别人都想用我的车呀？
It's sometimes difficult to ask people too much for these things. Sometimes people feel that it's not fair. Everybody's taking advantage of my car.
这也挺难的，因为有的人他们会觉得，这么就太过分了，大家都这太不公平了，都想来占我的便宜，利用我的这个资源。
It's very difficult dealing with devotees, you know.
跟奉献者打交道是挺难的。
Because we're not so pure. That's the point. We're not so pure. We're mixed devotees, and we do have the attachment. We're thinking, well, this is mine, my car, it's mine, my money.
因为我们不是纯粹奉献者，我们是混杂着的，有混杂的奉献者。我们还有依附，就认为这是我的，是属于我的，是我的车。
So we have to be careful, we have to understand devotees are, they're not on that level of pure devotee, and they do have material attachments. So you have to be sensitive to what we ask of people.
所以我们在交往过程当中还是应该小心为妙，因为我们要知道，就是奉献者们，他们不全是纯粹的奉献者，仍然还有物质依附，所以在我们开口做要求之前呢，应该敏感。
那个Radha Priya也说到了，就是有的奉献者自己买了乐器，自己又不会用，然后一直放在家里，也不愿意借给其他奉献者去学习服务Krishna，也是这种情况吗？那么是我们不要求他把这个器拿出来，还是等他主动的要求他拿出来服务呢
？Some devotees they bought music instrument, but they don't know how to use them. And in that case, should we ask them to provide the instrument, or to let themselves volunteer to provide their instrument?
Well, you can ask them and see how they respond.
你可以说，然后你看一下他的做出什么样的反应。
If they agree, if they're happy, if they don't mind, if you don't ask, then you'll never know. They may never volunteer. So sometimes you do have to ask.
你可以提一下要求，看他们到底同意不同意，看他们是不是就是非常就是心甘情愿的，很高兴的，不太在乎。因为如果你不提出来，主动提，他们可能永远不会主动愿意来提供这个乐器。
Or sometimes you can just suggest that, oh, we need this. If we really need this instrument. Oh, if we had this instrument, and in this way you can appeal to them indirectly without specifically asking them.
你可以旁敲侧击的建议跟他们说，哎呀，我们现在需要乐器，然后你就可以就是以这种方式来恳求他们，不是直截了当的提出来，而是一种间接的方式来旁敲侧击一下。
But we get this problem all the time. Sometimes I used to get it. I know there was this one devotee. He had a lot of books, and I'd be looking for this book, and I knew he had it. And I tried to get the book, but he didn't like to give his books. He wouldn't like to share his book with anybody even.
我自己呢也有这种经历。我特别想要一本书，我知道有的奉献者他拥有这个书，然后这个奉献者呢，他就特别不愿意分享他的书。
So at that time he was a brahmachari. Later on he got married.
之前他是真手生，后来他成了居士。
So it's more common for grihastas. They're more attached sometimes, but sometimes we see even the brahmacharis and sannyasis are also attached.
一般情况下，就是依附心比较重的是居士，但是呢，有的真手生或者是有的 sannyasi， 他们也是依附的。
Yeah, sometimes I get attached, It's difficult. Anyway, we have to try to gradually become detached from everything. Ultimately, we leave the world with nothing. When we go from this world, we can take nothing with us.
我们要逐渐的试图就变得不依附一切。终极呢，我们会两手空空的离开。
So it's good to use everything for the service of Krishna while you have it.
所以，当我们还拥有这些个物品的时候，我们应当把它用来服 Krishna， 这样做是好的。
Because later on you may not have it. Next life you may not have that opportunity.
因为下一生呢，可能你就没这个机会了。
Yes, very good question.
好，这个好问题。
Okay.
Mara, can I ask a small question regarding Bhagavad Gita about Paramatma? The Paramatma is situated in everybody's heart, but in our testing, like in small testing, large testing, there are a lot of bacteria. Does the super soul also situate in them? The millions and billions of them?
Among all the bacteria, you mean?
Yeah, bacteria, sorry.
Well, you have to understand that the super soul it's transcendental to all of these things. It's also spiritual. It's not physical. It's not gross. And it's finer than subtle. It's spiritual energy, right?
Yeah.
So the super soul is not going to be affected by these things.
Okay. 我刚才问的这个问题是有关超灵的。博家堂哥说，超灵处在众生心中。那像我们人体当中呢，有大肠、小肠，然后据说里头有几公斤的细菌，就是上亿的那个细菌的数目在那里。我就是那个超灵是不是也在这个细菌？马尔说，就我要明白超灵呢，它是超然于这一切的，它是灵性的，它不是物质的，所以它不是粗糙的，它比最精微的还要精微，所以它不受这些影响。
Yes.
Yes, thank you. That's...
Okay. So we'll stop here today.
Yeah.
我们感谢 Guru Mani， 给我们翻译，感谢 Sati Jurjar， 感谢所有的奉献者聆听。我们祝福你们生活快乐，维系健康。Hare Krishna， Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai。
谢谢古德，请保重。
Hare Krishna。